Our boys, day 5 of the bootcamp. Today is more of a special one because I'm gonna extend on day 3. So I believe on day 3 was for discipline. So discipline is more of a tool to execute the plan, but without a plan, you cannot even achieve what you want, right? So today is more about goal setting. So once again, I'll show you another day of my Google Calendar. We're gonna structure it together because all of what goal setting is all about is splitting the larger goal to smaller goals. So if you want to get something which is considered as overwhelming, you need to oftentimes split it down to daily tasks, smaller tasks, and then focus on them one by one until you eventually, reach that goal. So I want you to set up these one or two goals, and they need to be very specific. So you could be like, you want to reach 10K per month plus with a certain product. And for the sake of this, let's say this is the main goal. So generally speaking, this is the main goal for most people when they first start. And obviously, you're going to be demotivated the moment you go viral and then you don't make sales. You're most likely going to quit because you haven't been even closer to this 10K benchmark. For that reason, you're better off putting this as the main goal, but then creating these smaller goals, which are just like a staircase. They're gonna take you one step closer every single day. All right. So these little goals are actually the ones which we're gonna be talking about today, because obviously the big goal is what everyone's gonna talk about, whether it is making 10K plus, getting your dream car, whatever it is. The bigger goal is what people dream about, but the smaller goals are what people don't even look at, right? So everyone looks at the view, right? Like climbing the mountain for the view, but then nobody is willing to take the steps and get up the mountain. So it's the same concept here. For that reason, for dropshipping, it's all about structuring your days and being consistent, because that's the foundation of seeing success online. So if you want to see something go viral and then make sales from it, you need to be consistent. It's not going to be overnight. And oftentimes you're going to put in all these little steps until, if like one day it just blows up, you go viral, and then your website is on point, the backend is on point. So in other words, everything is being checked. Because trust me, it's more like there's a list of things which you need to have, and they all need to be checked before you can actually print. Okay. So oftentimes I've went viral. I've generated over 300 million views at this point. The first year I generated over 100 mil, but these were pump and dump products. So literally only one of these products which I tested actually converted. The rest were just numbers on a screen. So I can tell you from experience that even going viral will not convert. It's not guaranteed until you have all these back-end things checked, such as payment processors, making sure that checkout is in local currency. This is one very spoken or underrated topic. I can even dig deeper into it. It's because Shopify payment is not available everywhere. So for the countries where it's not supported in, you need to go for Stripe. And Stripe is perfect, it's good, but it does not offer its localized currency because Shopify is the one providing you with the checkout page. So you need some sort of IT and third-party softwares, which, by the way, took me a long time to find. So in other words, there's actually a solution for it, but it's going to be costly, both in terms of money and time. Plus, you need to hire someone to do it for you. So it's a long process just to get your Shopify checkout replaced with the Stripe checkout. You know what I mean? So once you figure out and tick all these boxes, and then you go viral, that's where you make money. Oftentimes people go viral, but then that's the only thing they check. And then all of these are half-assed, so they're not completely set up, or they're not optimized, so there's not enough trust on your website or on your landing page, which is your Instagram. I've spoken about this a lot. So you need to have highlights, you need to have daily stories, preferably some feedbacks, communicate with your customers, your DMs, and then ask them to send you feedback once you receive it. It's going to increase, honestly, in my opinion, that's what makes you look like a real brand, when you have a bunch of feedback on your highlights and constantly reposting stuff. That's where, you start making the most. So for you to achieve all of that, we need to set up the smaller goals. And for the sake of this bootcamp, we're going to be putting ourselves in the shoes of someone who's just starting out. So if you have no product, you have never made a sale, then what are the first smaller goals that you need to focus on? And obviously, it's going to be the product. So product, as I've mentioned before, is the most important part. And literally mentorships, which are costing like 2,500, 3K plus, are developed or designed just to pick a product for you, then followed up with like some pre-recorded videos. So most likely just for the product selection. So you can see the value of picking the product. And the second most important thing, in my opinion, is account setting. So you need to have properly set it up accounts, whether it's on Instagram or TikTok. I'm going to have a separate day. Probably tomorrow is going to be about platforms. So how to set up your account, how to warm it up, all these crucial points. So how would we start if we're making 0 sales? What sort of goals would we have? Let us set up a day for someone who's had 0 sales and currently has one product laying around nearby where he or she could record. So I'll put myself in that position. So let's say that was me. I'd wake up at 7, just like usual. Then this is obviously going to be like this. Usually, I would get obviously my coffee. Now, coffee and emails, but I don't think you're going to have a bunch of emails if you haven't found your winner yet. So I'm just going to go for coffee and sunlight for 15 minutes. 15 to 30 minutes, because as mentioned on my previous day of the bootcamp, this is where I personally prefer to do my brainstorming, aka my goal setting. You cannot expect yourself to actually win, especially in business, when you don't have goals or plan laid down for you, because the difference between working and having your own business is that you have to become your own boss. So you need to tell yourself what to do every single day. And that's why psychology is really important. So if you're wondering, why am I breaking down multiple days for psychology and mindset in this bootcamp, is because you literally have to rewire your mind if you've never been experienced in this particular situation where you actually have to do things without someone telling you to do. And there's a lot of people who are not used to this. So it's not like they're never going to be able to do it. No, they could actually rewire their mind. Okay. And sometimes you might even know this, but you don't apply it, right? So for that reason, I'm doing this. This is really crucial, because this is what's going to take you, from 0 to 10K plus months. So some people prefer to do their brainstorming on the previous day, at the end of the day before bed, so that next day, just like when you're going to school, let's say tomorrow you know there's a trip and you're excited for it. So you're going to bring in all these snacks, all these preparations, and then you're going to sleep excited for the next day. It's the same concept. That's why I have nothing against brainstorming before sleep. It's just that I'm the type of person who's always working till the last hope of staying awake. So I cannot remember the last day I actually went to sleep with intention. So like just putting my phone down and going to sleep, I've never done that. Most of the time, I'm staying up till my brain just cannot function anymore. And that's usually around like 1 a.m. So I'm not saying this is the best for you, nor am I saying this is healthy, but if it works for me, then that's what I'm doing. If it works for you, perfect. You could relate to what I'm saying. But yeah, it's the same metaphor as what I just told you about the school. So you would be excited and you would often prepare for this next day because you already know what's going to happen on day two, right? And oftentimes, what happens is while you sleep, you're literally thinking about this next day. So you're going to wake up feeling more motivated, more excited because you know exactly what you got to do. For that reason, honestly, I might have to test this sometime, shift my 30 minutes from here till the end of the day because I know this is actually proven to work. Like we all experience this when we're growing up. For example, Christmas as well. You're sleeping, you know something's gonna happen next day. You're gonna have gifts. You need to treat. That's why they say you need to love what you do. If you actually love what you do, then this is how it's supposed to feel every single day, and that's gonna take you further than someone who's forcefully working something that he doesn't like. So yeah, this is a very important analogy that I want you to focus on and imagine, so you could relate to it with your own, life. So right after waking up, having my coffee and tan. Tan is mainly for health. Okay, I don't really tan for color or anything. I just do it because it signals my brain that okay, you gotta wake up. Okay, I'm usually I stay like half an hour in bed, so it's tough. That's why I started getting some sunlight with my coffee, and then right after that, gym. I get some pre-workout, so any sort of carbs, then gym all the way till 9 9 to 9:30. We're gonna say 9 for this purpose because I still have to drive there and stuff. 9:15. Okay, from that point, what you would do, this is if I was making zero sales, I don't have my first winner, I just ordered this first product which I've seen and I truly believe it's gonna be performing well. So at this point I would shower, eat. It shouldn't take a while, just till 9:30 or 9:45, whatever you want. This is where you start working. So around 10, what would you have to do? If you just receive your product and you don't have any background of what to do and you don't have any experience with filming, then the first thing you gotta do is make a list of competitors of this product. Okay? We're gonna just say list of competitors. This is gonna be very crucial because once you, and I hope you already have made this list while you were waiting for the product to arrive, because that's more of a wise thing to do and time efficient. So if not, make this list. And by the way, it doesn't need to be like, obviously, even if you made it prior to receiving the product, you still need to check these competitors the moment you receive your product because you want to see their latest post and what has went viral recently or lately. And that's where you set your agenda for the day. So you pick, let's say, 2 videos or 3 videos which went viral recently. Now you gotta sit down and study the viral content and prepare. Okay, you gotta prepare the background. So this might take you half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, depends on the product. It really does. Some products might require you to go to the beach, go to a showroom. It could go wild. Like some products required people to literally go to the airport to record. So it depends on the product, obviously. Check what went viral, check the background, look around if you have the same props. Props are like the tools or the objects they had in the background which help them to go viral. So it could be any sort of aesthetic things like lightings or backgrounds, decorations. So fix your background, understand how did they structure their video. So most of this, by the way, is going to be towards the hook. Most of your plan in terms of replicating will be for the hook. You need to understand what was the reason which made them go viral. And most of the time, it's either the hook or the idea of the video. So, like the concept of it, the text and stuff. So, take your time. This might take you an hour, hour 15 minutes. Do your research, and then preferably have a piece of paper where you write down the length of each clip. This is something very important. Not many people have mentioned this before, but that's what I personally do, and it's important. So if it's 0.5 seconds, and you might wonder, how can I know how long was the clip lasted? You could screen record the video, and then right when you screen record and save it, open it through CapCut. I'm gonna have a separate day for editing. I'll redirect back to this topic when I go there. But yeah, put the recorded video on your CapCut and then, split it, break it down to multiple clips, and then see how long was the duration of each clip, and then write it down on a paper. This will be your first goal. So now you have developed your first smaller goal of the day. Now you have made a list of competitors, you've seen the viral content, and it needs to be within the past week or two, preferably. In my opinion, 1 month is a long time. So it has to be within the past few days or a week, preferably, if not 2 weeks. And that's where you have a viral format which you can replicate. Now, at that point, you need to set your goal of creating it. So now you have the durations of the video. You have studied the background, the hand movements, which is another very important part. So how did they move the product? For example, this. Was it like this? So was the hook like the product arrived from nowhere, or was the product already here when it first started? You gotta figure out every single thing about the product, about the video, and then it's time to film. So once the goals are set, now is the filming. You might be asking here at this point, should I film a lot of content for a lot of days or for 1 day? Most of the time, even if you're in the middle, so you're not a beginner, you're not an expert, but somewhere in the middle, you still need to record every single day. Personally, this is like the most important skill, and will continue to be. This is really important. So record just for today. And what do I mean by record for today? A lot of people, what they do is they record once, okay? And it's even worse when you're a beginner. So you'd record once and then be like, okay, this is good, I recorded. And then you go to editing. And then you try to sort it out with the editing side. So the content is trash. So that means you're trying to put more heavy lifting through the editing part to somehow, fix this content. And what often happens is you're going to waste more time because your content was not that good, and now you're trying to edit it to make it look good. And even if you try to edit it too much, there's a limitation to how good you can make it look like. So yeah, you should be recording multiple sessions, but for the same day. So you shouldn't have the intention that, okay, I'm doing 5 different attempts of this video for 5 days. No, you're doing them so that you could pick the best one for today. You know what I mean? From that moment, pick the best one. Let's say it took you an hour and a half because this is your first time, and let's consider it's a hard product. Now it's 2 p.m. Now it's time to edit. So the editing part is a bit tricky if you're a beginner. I want to give one last point about the filming point. This is another thing which is really important, to have a good competitive environment or mentor like around you, because how can you determine whether you even recorded a good piece of content? So you might have recorded 10 times for today and you don't even know whether it was a good piece of content or not. But because even if you're not a beginner, by the way, many times or oftentimes you're going to think you recorded a perfect piece of content, but it doesn't go viral, and for a main reason, which is it wasn't as good as you thought. So having this environment who can keep you accountable and review your content will actually help you picking this piece of content which you need to work on. So let's say you actually found it. We go to the next point, which is editing. This will also vary per the product. Currently, it's taking me like 30 to 60 minutes for a completely new edit. So we're going to keep it around 1 hour. From that moment, you might be wondering, okay, when should I post? Because this is like my first day of having this new product, let's say. So since I edited the first piece of content, now it's ready around 3 p.m. I don't want to post it yet. So instead, what I could do, go for round 2. So record a different video. So basically, I'm just doing the same thing which I've done before, but this time what's going to happen naturally is you're going to be faster. You're going to be better. Every single time you do something, you're going to be better. So you could, by the way, do this back here. So when you were filming, you could actually film different ideas in the same setting. So I'm not asking you to, go to the beach and record once for your product because you need the sea behind you, and then come back home, edit it, post it, and then go back to the beach. No. Go once, okay, record for the day. All I'm saying is don't record for the month or for the week, because what often happens is you're limiting yourself to the poor content which you recorded on that day for the week or the month, and this is going to set you to failure. So no, do it for the day, maybe maximum for 2 days, and then create new fresh content. So obviously this, I'm going to have to put it up here. Unless this first photo shoot was actually really hard and it was completely different from the second idea, then it would only make sense to have a separate task for this different video. Because again, the smaller the goals, so the more specific they are, the better the outcome. So if first filming session required you to, let's say it's a emotion product, so the background had to be, very pleasing to, let's say, the female audience. So you're gonna have a lot of colors, all sorts of things. But then the second video was meant to be more of a raw video where you don't have a desk, you're just holding the product. That would make more sense, So first one required a different background, hence why it was separate. You edited, now it's ready. Now you go for the different video, which is requiring a different setting. And maybe this would require you half an hour. Then you gotta edit. And then you have to edit it, which is another 30 minutes. I'm gonna assume it's a easier video to edit because it was more of a raw video. So now you have 2 videos. When should I post them? Towards the end of my day, just like back here. So I'm gonna have to duplicate. I'm gonna put it here. Personally, I'm not sure what time zone is for you guys watching, but for Dubai time, which is going to be around, so 7 to 8 p.m. for me is around 6 p.m. CET, Central Eastern Time. So that's around the best time to post. That's where you get the first edited post posted, and then give yourself 3-hour gap and then post again. So we're gonna have to duplicate this. So if I post at 7, that means the next one's gonna be around 10. There we go. And these gaps are up to you to decide what to do. So you could tell here that we haven't done product research today. For that reason, you're probably gonna be burnt out at 3:30. So at this point, have coffee. That's what I usually do. I need a coffee around afternoon, so coffee number 2 or 3, I don't know, can't remember. Somewhere around here. You could have a snack or food again, and then do product research. And this product research is more of like your chill time, okay? So instead of swiping reels on your personal page on Instagram, go on your burn account and do your daily, doom scrolling. but for something that actually has returns. So you would see new products, new ideas, and this way you could gather new information of what, maybe this way you could gain some ideas for next day, and this way you're gonna actually be ahead of time and you're gonna know exactly what to record day 2. So, or worst case scenario, you find a different product which is gonna make you, double down and then have to double down every single task here. So if I were to have 2 products, I would probably put this recording session up here. Like I would fit it into my schedule so that I finish all the recording for product 1 earlier through the day, and then recording for product 2 later around the day. And yeah, it's really about flexibility. So you need to see what works for you. There's obviously for people who have a lot of time. If you have less time and you have an easier product, you could get it done easier. Or if you're more experienced, then you don't need to spend this much time for your filming and editing. It could take you 15 minutes to edit and 10 minutes to film. But from experience, the more time you invest into each of these smaller tasks, the better the outcome is going to be. So yeah, the rest of the time is up to you to decide what to do in. So here, usually I would either work, for example, I'm streaming right now. Currently I have 2 products, so usually I'm the most effective and efficient with my time in the morning. So yeah, that's when I get my work done. And then around evening is where I, do the stream. I get some other, like my posts done. And then here is usually just family time or something like that. So yeah. This is obviously subject to change from person to person, but you can have a good foundation to how much work you gotta put every day. And preferably, you should have 2 products a day. So working on every day is what I mean. That way, you're gonna fill in your schedule, your calendar more. And that's a better visual of what smaller goals mean, because if I were to say that I'm gonna wake up here, and then the second task is to make 10K per day, I'm gonna be overwhelmed and clueless of what to do. So instead, do the little tasks and they're gonna take you to these bigger goals, okay? So now that we have structured our day together, we have a better understanding of how much work has to be done. And I need to mention this one more time. The trick here is to have an iron will. Like, this could be just random tasks on your screen, but what makes them actually worthy and effective is that you need to have this iron will that once you have set them, you have to finish them. So let's say I did not hit the gym today. That means I'm gonna put it in this gap right here. Okay, focus on this part, because this means that whatever task was not done, you can postpone it for somewhere else throughout this day, but you cannot postpone it to another day. So that's the hack here. And if you work on this, you're going to be ahead of competition in general, because most people, they say things and they don't do it. And I think the best way for you to counteract that is to honestly just work on yourself. So one of the things which I had to learn later in my journey is the more you're accountable with your word. So let's say you say something that you're going to do, the more accountable that if I don't do it, then I'm going to most likely fail, then the more likely you're going to do it. So you just got to be more rational about things, Be clear that, okay, if I don't do this, then it's a 0. We spoke about this 2 days ago. Ones and zeros. So if there's a lot of explanations and you already wasted 2 hours and you prepared another 4 hours for the photo shoot, but then you didn't get it done, you didn't post it, it's a 0. So be accountable and preferably say things, okay? Say these things to your friends, whoever, and that's a trick to actually finishing these things. All right, so now that we have finally broken down what the tasks should be and how to develop these smaller goals for the end goal, we can hop to the next questions. which are how is it different from discipline? So, all what day 3 was about is to use discipline as a tool to execute on these tasks. So, now that we have laid down the plan, we know what things to do on a daily basis. The only thing left is to execute. And another thing is obviously what I just mentioned, the iron will. So whenever you say something, that's why I insist once again, find a community which is in the same interest as what you're trying to do. For that reason, we have a free Discord. Join it, it's in the description. And all you gotta do then is network and say what you wanna do. Keep on working till you achieve it. So it's all about this saying what you mean and meaning what you say. Next point is importance of goal setting, which we described. So you cannot achieve the bigger picture without doing the daily chores, the smaller goals. And this is one of the quotes which I really love. It's very similar to the environment. So the 5 people you hang around with, same concept. Show me your day and I'll tell you where you're headed. I don't know if this is actually a quote. I just took it from my mind and I wrote it down. But I think I've heard about this before. And it's very true. If you have a visual of what someone is doing on a daily basis, you're going to know what sort of person this is, like where he's headed. So, because it's all about time to see success in any sort of space, whether it's, e-com or anything else. And then next is time management. So obviously now that we have developed these smaller goals, it's all about time management. So you need to be very strict with your time to get everything done on time. And if it's not done on time, then you're going to have to extend it and then reschedule everything. And that way you ensure that the only thing which you're sacrificing here is sleep time and dopamine time. So now that we're extending everything, that means you have less gaps at the end of the day. This means you have less time to chill or even sleep, okay? So that's how you should look at it. The more things you delay, the less time you're gonna have towards the end of the day to chill and even sleep. So this might seem like a very boring way of living, but this is what you gotta do to see results. So one trick or one mind frame which I have about time management, sometimes I don't have a schedule, okay? I'm gonna be real with you. So sometimes this is a demo account, but sometimes I wouldn't be up to date with my schedule or Google Calendar. However, I have developed this mind frame that literally, I'm serious here, whenever I catch myself not doing anything productive, I just find tasks to do. I just create tasks. So this is more about the smaller goals. I create these smaller goals every single time I'm not doing anything. So let's say you wake up, you know exactly what you gotta do. You gotta edit, post, hit the gym, and then what? That's where you need to write down what are the things which are not performing and then fix them. So I create these tasks by checking what sort of problems or what sort of things are not performing, and then I fix them. Okay, that's what I generally do. And obviously number 5 is the higher the input means the higher the output. So this is relatable to when I first started, and we're gonna go back to this. So if you are not doing this, okay, you're just, let's say you posted once, you recorded once like a week ago, and then you're just using that same content for the entire week. So you might just have an empty day, like here, you wake up, and then at 7, post, and then at 12, sleep. And then you wonder, why did you not get a sale or 2 or 10 or 20? Because look at the difference between this and this. And this is not even complete. This is primarily for like a main product and a half product. So you need to let this, sink in. You need to think about it, because that's what I encountered when I first started. I had this one product which got me like 30 million views on TikTok when I first started. And I reached a point where I post once. I literally do nothing all day. And then I post once, and then I make a few sales, and that's it. But then obviously it went down. So what I should have been doing was focusing on either doubling down on the product, but now looking back at it, it was another no value pump and dump product. So there was no point to work on that same product. Instead, ride the wave, and then while it is, paying off, do product research. So this is your primary objective when you don't have a good product. So you need to focus on this. So yeah, you need to fill in these gaps every day, and that's gonna account for higher outcome. And then finally, the consistency part is a very obvious one by now. You must know that for anything to, pay off, you need to put in the work every day. And although this is a very simple thing to talk about, I did not understand this when I first started. I would get motivated. That's why, by the way, motivation is not a thing, because motivation is not consistent. So you would get fired up after this video, work a bit, do your product research, and then forget about it for the next 3 days. You're less likely to see success in this space. So you need to go towards the discipline side and do it every day till it pays off. So yeah, that's it for day 5. I think this was way better than, like, in terms of breaking down the structure of the day and explaining the smaller goals. So this was an extension of day 3, because discipline is just a tool to execute these things. So this is really important. I hope you watched this far, and yeah, take action from now, and this way you're gonna see more results by the end of this bootcamp. So see you on day 6.